Welcome back. You're in the right spot. This is Tim and Julie Harris, and this is your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. And we have a podcast that we are doing today that is based on requests. And the request is very simple. In this day and age where Compass has decided that the new cutting edge technology is the MLS book, that's kind of a joke. Where people are trying to sort of, figure out where the heck all the inventory is. We have created a great podcast for you guys. It's called 23 Places You Haven't Looked Yet for Inventory of Homes for Sale. And Julie, I was listening to Morning Wire this morning, and Logan was talking about the fact that new construction is making up, because it's on your list. Sorry for stepping on one of your points, sweetie.
Okay.
Because new construction is now making up close to 30% of all home sales. And that's the same number that it was back in 2019. And historically, the new construction has been almost half that number as far as the impact it's had on resale, or had on home sales. And the reason that he was, and what you and I have been talking about for 3 years, right? But the reason he's saying that new construction is being so dominant in the marketplace is because they're buying down interest rates, right? So the disconnect with that statement, and it's a good place for us to start today's show, is the fact that residential or used homes can be doing the same thing. And so if you guys are listening right now, it is absolutely a fact that new construction homes can be seemingly priced uncompetitive. They can be more expensive than a similar resale home because 99.9% of all humans shop payment. They don't shop price. You don't care what something costs as long as you can afford it per month. I'm overstating it, but you guys get the point.
So that's true. And you're right. Let me just jump in for a second. In most markets, depending on where you live, the difference between, let's say we take a 2,500 square foot home used versus new, it's about a 12 to 18% difference, with the new construction being more. So as you go up in price range, that can be a lot more. That could be like the difference between 400,000 on a resale and like 525 perhaps in some markets. So the mistake that agents make is they don't bother to show the 525 because they think it's not in the buyer's price range.
Exactly. That was where Julie read my mind. So when we're going through these points, you guys have to start thinking dynamically. And also, this information is very valuable when you're talking to a prospective buyer client, and when you're talking to a seller about pricing, because don't just use MLS comps as your comparables, because you're going to totally miss the market. So look, this is designed to help you guys to realize that there's not a lack of inventory. And I know if you're just looking at MLS, there's a lack of inventory in a lot of markets still. I want you to realize there's inventory everywhere. You just have to be more creative in where you're looking. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And we're probably going to get through all of our points. Julie's got a hard stop in about a half hour. We're not getting through all these points.
No, it's a 2 to 3 part show. Don't worry. We'll get through what we get through.
Julie, you got 23 points, lady.
We don't have to present all of them. Some of them will be in the newsletter.
Oh, that's true. Well, that's good tee up. So yes, if you want all 23 points of where inventory is hiding from you, please do subscribe to our newsletter. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our daily newsletter where all these points from today's show are going to be waiting for you, as well as the day's podcast and video. All right, Julie, without any further delay, let's jump right in.
Okay, so before we get to our first strategy, and by the way, of all these 23 strategies, I think only 2 of them have anything to do with the MLS. So stay tuned. Before we do that, there's 2 things that you need to do before you get into looking at this as a checklist. And for my coaching clients, it is a checklist, okay? You do this every time with every buyer. First one is make sure that you've actually pre-qualified your buyer and you know what they really want, more than just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in this school district. You need to know more about that. So the next thing is stop relying on your MLS solely. Stop relying on your drip. Stop relying on the buyer to see something in the drip and say, hey, I want to go see it. Because most of you know, by the time they do say that, if they say that in between their job and raising their kids and all the rest, that house is probably already sold. Or at the very least, they're going to have to compete for it, right? So you have to watch out for that. Don't be so dependent on the MLS plus your MLS drip. Don't let your buyer be more motivated than you are. So come to terms with those 2 things. Really know what they're actually looking for beyond just a couple of sentences. And secondly, be committed to not only using your MLS. Pretend, and some of you, it's easier than others, pretend you got your license today. And instead of saying, hey, here's where you find inventory, you just go to your MLS. You've got an MLS membership. You could just log right in and find that. If we were your broker, we would say there are 23 ways plus to find inventory. The MLS is only one of those. And you need to take each buyer and run them through, maybe not all 23, but at least 5 of them. Make sense?
So along those lines, remember, most of the buyers you guys are working with, depending on your price point, are also sellers. So if you're not proactively following, a lot of these suggestions, you're going to lose the seller because
The listing, yes.
the listing, because the seller who is looking for a property and you're not finding it for them might be out there looking for a property themselves without you. And that means that you're not only going to not get the buy side, you're also not going to get the sell side. All right,
Exactly.
Julie, let's go through as many of these points as we can.
Okay, so starting with number one, this is the MLS point. Dig into your MLS for potentially aged listings. For some markets, that means just 30 days on the market and it seems like it's aged. For others of you, it's 60 or 90 days. Why? Because they're less likely to have competing offers and you have more motivated sellers. So dig deeper with your older listings. You can do a search by days on the market. The second one is potentially also an MLS point. Expand your buyers' search zones. A lot of buyers will say, I got to be in this school district, or I got to be in this neighborhood. I've got to be within, 5 miles of where I work. You can expand that within reason, right? So use some tools. There's lots of apps. There's lots of websites where you can compare school district. If they want to say, I want a top rated school district. Well, that's probably, there is a number one, of course there is, but number 2 and 3 are probably really good as well. And what about private schools and, all of that kind of thing. So expand geographically as much as you can.
And you dropped in a great point when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on the show. The fact is, in most school districts, they can pay public schools. They can actually pay tuition for their kid to go to the, nearby public school that might be in a better school district. And I would also suggest to you guys, these school ratings things, they're not, you better, like, how do I say this without sounding political? The way that the schools are judged are not necessarily the values that your clients might be thinking that they're judged by. You might just be thinking that the school systems are being judged by this graduating kids.
Like, what's it based on, right?
Exactly. It just might be a bunch of crap, and it usually is, frankly, because we've looked into all of this. So look into it and find out, is it based on STEM scores? No, a lot of times it's not. And so what is it based on? It's based on a bunch of stuff that's essentially designed to try to make people think this is an excellent school. And when you show it to your people that are all adamant it has to be in the school district, they might change their tune.
Yes, and I forgot to put my notes over here next to you are the notes on this.
I see
there are two apps that use test scores as their criteria and not anything else really. So we'll put those in the notes as well. But you can do that. The other thing, and this isn't in point number 2, but I learned today that in most MLSs, you can do a school district search. And then there's a widget in the MLS where you say, show me the map of that school district. So for example, I'll use from our rental properties, for example, Worthington Schools. Most of what we own is in Worthington Schools. So if somebody says, I want Worthington Schools, I'm going to naturally go to the Worthington Schools MLS code, of course. But if I overlay that map, I'm going to see that there are streets in Columbus, and we actually own a rental in Powell that I normally wouldn't have searched in Powell for Worthington Schools. But there's 2 or 3 neighborhoods up here that are adjacent that have a different MLS code where I could absolutely find something in Worthington Schools for less money than searching just in Worthington. Does that make sense?
It does. You remember when you and I were looking in Austin and we were working with one of our coaching clients, David, and he was like, oh, you guys have to be an Ames school district. And you and I were like, okay. And it's why. The real reason why he wanted us to be an Ames school district, because that was the neighborhood he knew the most. And he didn't want to drive that far. And you know how Julie ended up finding the property? Because he was only searching within a certain distance from Ames school district, which we didn't even say we were that caring about. It is the best school district, I guess, in Austin. And so Julie, one night, did a little search for an area, this far out of, the general Austin area. And she went into Williamson County. It was like 5 miles into Williamson County. And she found the house that we bought.
And also has great schools and private schools. And all
exactly.
That, so.
And Julie, yeah, exactly. And she's like, well, so we can go to a, private Catholic school. And it worked out fantastic. So yes. Think outside of the box, but explain to your clients that you're thinking outside of the box. It'll make a big impact on them. These are little tiny nuanced things that we try to really drill down on with you guys every single day. If you love these points, if you're really getting a lot out of this because it's expanding your thinking, you're realizing I can say these things, I can have these thoughts. Imagine how you're going to feel when you become a Premier Coaching client. Premier Coaching is the genesis of our life's work. It is a 13-level coaching program that one level builds on the other, builds on the other, builds on the other. The ultimate is level 13, and that is the ethical real estate professional designation. So after you've passed through the 12 levels and you've learned how to proactively lead generate, present, pre-qualify, build your team if you wanted to, work on your marketing and branding if you want to, create consistent cash flow, all these things. Then you become certified as a ethical real estate professional. So you can join right now and you get the first month for free, 100% for free. And there is a massive amount of content you get, including a daily semi-private coaching call. So click the link below to join Premier Coaching, or just go to premiercoaching.com. Now, I do want to let all of you know that if you don't want to wait 13 months, and most of you don't, you can actually join now as a Premier Coaching VIP client and get all of Premier Coaching, including the ethical real estate professional, the second you enroll. So just go to premiercoaching.com. And then frankly, that's what I would do if I were you. Why wait? Get it all now. And then you get our pre-listing pack. Then you get all the ethical real estate professional stuff, and all the things that you need right now will be available immediately on your desktop. I will warn you though, the information is again, Julie and I do not, we are no BS. We are not going to give you guys half-baked information. This is real, drilled down, actual tactical, practical information that's designed to put you in a position to help people and make money. So make sure you're mentally and emotionally ready for that. All right. So Julie, let's move on.
Yes. Okay. Number 3, connect with real estate investors. Small investors, investor groups, medium investors, they get a lot of opportunity from different things that they're doing, but they don't always say yes to everything. They might have 5 opportunities that cross their desk and their budget allows them to buy 2 out of 5.
Well, let's be more defining of what that means. So investors are out there trying to buy wholesale houses. They'll usually run ads. A lot of them have moved from their ugly yellow signs that you used to see everywhere now to Facebook groups. So ugly yellow Facebook groups, I suppose. So you need to connect with, find out who they are. And what you'll find is these guys are usually obviously meeting up online, but then they'll meet up in person, and sometimes they'll swap leads with each other. I've got this one, you've got this one.
And you can join those clubs too. Who's to say you're not an investor? Maybe you're not yet.
And you go there, and the ones that they turn down, and in every market, we've had coaching clients that have made a fortune off just doing what I'm about to tell you. So listen, in every market, there'll be usually 3 dominant wholesale investor guys that are very scaled up. Julie and I are really good friends with Adam and Curry. And what they do is in Atlanta, they've got an army of people that will go out and look for notice of defaults. They'll look for all kinds of people that might have some form of distress. And they have, I think it's like 10 people that go out and knock on the doors and offer to essentially buy the house for cash them out of their equity, and they walk away. And they're giving them good money for the houses, and they're not trying to steal them. Sure. Well, occasionally they're going to go knock on one, and they're going to decide, well, this isn't for us because maybe it needs too much work, or most likely what's going to happen is the owner's going to want to, yeah, I do want to sell it, but I'm going to try to retail it. Adam and Curry just pass on it and they go on to the next one. Well, what you should do is find your local Adam and Curry, and you should then connect with them so you can get a list of all the properties that they turned down to buy wholesale because they knew, because the numbers didn't make sense, but those are ready to go listing leads for you that cost no referral fee, unless you, of course, agree to pay them a referral fee. And the way you make those folks loyal to you is when you come across something that might be a good wholesale opportunity, you then bring it to them.
Yeah. So look at it this way. Here's your strategy. Those investors in our example, Adam and Curry, they have a system. They are prospecting those types of properties, but you are prospecting them. Right. And to Tim's point, you will have even more loyalty because you'll take those types of opportunities to them. Sometimes some of them are buying to keep, some of them are buying to rent, sometimes to flip. These are like, I know in some of my coaching clients markets, it's we buy ugly homes, it's we pay cash for homes. Sometimes they have like a branded name like that. And sometimes it's just a Facebook group. So that's a great strategy.
But most of them nowadays, Julie, are online doing digital ads that are looking for people that are doing searches. They've gotten much more sophisticated, but it's still out there. I mean, wholesale is a great opportunity. Julie and I, and we teach you guys how to do this in Premier Coaching, and most of our top coaching clients have built rental inventory. We were just talking about rentals right before I hit record, and we've got a rental that's got a mold problem. I mean, you know, such is the way. But a lot of our rentals we got through our guaranteed home sale program. And so if you run a guaranteed home sale program, you know, buy or sell with me, or no, I'm sorry, I guarantee the sale of your home in 120 days, or I'll buy it, that type of thing. It's always worked. That type of marketing has been around since, you know, the 90s. Basically, it started when Julie and I were selling real estate. And if you're in a market where that will work, you should definitely consider that. We explain to you how to do that in Premier Coaching. And it's also, if you want it to be an option in your pre-listing pack to include with Premier Coaching, it's there as well. But that is a killer way for you to get wholesale property opportunities. And here's the really interesting part. You will get calls from people that you think, oh, why would I want to buy a wholesale property? Is this going to be some sort of dirtbag house? That is not true. 1 in 10. So you'll get people calling. I want to know about your guaranteed home sale program. You'll go out on a listing appointment. It turns out it's a great house, like maybe a little this and a little that, but that thing's ready to go. And why are they selling it? Why are they wholesaling it? Because they don't have the time to screw or the inclination to screw around trying to sell it. We've got properties, Beachwell, Julie, where the lady said, I just don't want to screw around selling it. I got a new job. It's across the country. I just want to get rid of it. What's your offer?
Convenience sale.
Exactly. Most of the people that are going to respond to wholesaler offers aren't selling a distressed property. They're just, and they're not distressed. They just don't want the hassle. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to help you deprogram yourself with regards to ill thinking.
I think that's hard for some of them to believe because they've been in this fast and furious environment for so long. Like, why would somebody not want absolute top dollar with competing offers and 200 people tromping through their home? That's not for everyone, right? I mean, when we sell our houses, we haven't done it in a long time. We used to just leave town. We didn't want to deal with people.
Have we, Julie, have we ever, I was thinking about that. Have we ever sold a house while we were occupying it? Have we?
I don't think we ever have. None of us.
Oh no, we're not going through that.
No, it's not for everybody.
We haven't.
If you want to party, throw a party, but okay. I digress. All right. So our next one, we can talk about that one for a whole podcast, but the next one is number 4, befriend new home sales reps. These are the agents who are sitting in the models. Sometimes they're not even licensed. In many states, they don't have to be licensed. But these are the agents that you take your buyer in and you write up, the contract. Now, why we have a different angle on this too. Yes, because they may have inventory homes that are not in your MLS. That's very likely. In fact, of the roughly 180,000, I think, new construction homes as part of the overall inventory in the country, it might surprise some of you that I looked this up this morning, 120,000 of those are built but not sold. There's no contract on them.
Whoa,
so
hold on.
Might that be yes, that's
repeat
right.
Repeat what you just said. You said say what you
of the built homes. Okay, we're not talking about dirt houses that are already built. There's about 180, 190,000 of those. Of those, 120,000 of them nationwide do not have a contract on them. They are unsold inventory, new construction.
That's incredible.
Okay, so you've got a buyer that you can't find anything.
And not in the MLS. Most of them are not in the MLS.
Well, in most cases, there are some MLSs that carry that, but in many cases, they're not in the MLS, which brings us back to our point, befriend new construction sales reps. They know about this stuff. And that goes to our point number 5, which is the second part of number 4. Point number 5 is ask them. They have people who back out of contracts. They have people who get divorced halfway through being in contract or get relocated or don't qualify anymore. They lose their job. Deals fall apart in new construction too. And that's an inventory home that's already built. It's fresh. It's brand new. We used to love doing that when we were working with buyers because it was such an easy sale. They're sick of looking at resale or they can't find something resale. And you bring them into a beautiful, newly constructed home that's like a month from completion. That's hard to say no to.
Well, that's right. But the biggest opportunity really working with resale, obviously, is getting the easy buyer sides because those are the easiest buyer sides you're ever going to get. But it's the resale listings that the buyers will have that you can get those leads from the new build reps. Hopefully you guys followed on that word spaghetti I just gave you. So you go in, you meet with all the new, you guys should have this be a people farm for you, basically. Yes. Make a list, befriend, make them love you, bring them donuts, bring them oranges.
Make them part of your route weekly. Go visit them, pop in.
But when you go visit them, always try to have buyers with you. And the new build reps will then start referring. Are you ready for it? Are you listening? We talk about this extensively in Premier Coaching. So Premier Coaching, please don't roll your eyes because we love this as a source of leads. But if you go to this new build reps, they are going to have always a list of people that have to sell their homes before they can build a new home with them. Or they can close on the house that they're already in contract with. You guys understanding what we're saying here? Referral fee free. Most of the build reps do not have real estate licenses, or if they do, they're not allowed to sell resale. So keep this in mind. An enormous source of business, considering 30% of all the homes being sold, roughly, correct me on my numbers if I'm wrong there, Julie, are new construction homes in the United States right now. And the average sale price of the new construction home has to be 10 or 20% more than a resale home, which means a lot of these guys are not going to be first-time buyers, which means a lot of these are going to have homes for sale, which means a lot of them are going to need listing agents. And what are you
Yes.
doing? Just turning on the MLS or buying your leads from Zillow? Makes no sense, folks.
Ugh, gives me a headache. Yeah, that's the thing. And a lot of our points, we're talking about, of course, making a match for your buyers, but in the process, you're going to come across listing leads. So don't just have your buyer hat on and say, oh, they don't have any inventory for my buyer. What are the other opportunities when you're talking to new construction build reps, for example, or investors? Maybe you connect with an investor trying to match your buyer and the investor doesn't have that exact match, but they have 10 other properties that they want to unload this year. So you've got to think on both sides, helping your buyers, but also because you're using your buyers as your excuse to make these contacts, where's the listing opportunity?
We could talk about this point of working with new construction forever because we love
What
it
we
so
do in
much.
Premier.
Well, we do in Premier, but just like you can make an absolute sloppy fortune from working with the medium-sized builders or the smaller builders that want to be medium-sized builders that are doing specs. And we tell you guys how to go about finding who those builders are in your marketplace. But the moral of the story is they're not going to have a new construction, model home, full-time build rep and whatever. And if you can lever yourself into that, Carrie and Dan, okay, Carrie Shaw and Dan Lesniak are doing this brilliantly. So Dan listed a new construction for a new construction builder and the lowest price of all the homes he listed. And by the way, he got this relationship from calling expireds.
I love this story.
Yes. Okay. But did I tell you this?
I only know part of it. So
he goes out, they go out and list this new construction house for over $10 million. The dude is specking on a house for over 10 million.
Wow.
And they're taking pictures and Carrie's doing her Carrie thing and the whole thing is going great. And then the builder said, well, when are you going to list my other properties? Dan hadn't even asked, bad Dan. But it turns out, I think the guy had 2 or 3 other properties and the least expensive one was $3.5 million.
Wow.
And they're all being
So that
built.
demonstrates the point, right?
Well, it demonstrates the fact that this guy had no real solid relationship. It demonstrates the fact that, by the way, calling expired is always has been and always will be a gold mine. Yeah, this is me stopping myself from getting on my expired soapbox. Yes, but the moral of the story is there's a good medium-sized builder that's going to pay them. And in their marketplace, there's no big discounted commission. So they're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars from Dan's one expired call. All right, I'm stopping myself.
Yes.
Move on to the
No
next
referral
point.
fee. Did we mention that it was free? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. One more point, and then I have a coaching call to get to. All right. So we've got the next one is number 6. Also a great opportunity, call for rent by owner homeowners. Okay. So these are people like us, right? So we own multiple rental properties, but these are single family homes. There's tons of investors like that, right? So you're going to call them, and it's a very simple script. We teach it in Premier Coaching because this is a business decision. You call and you ask, if it's still vacant, because if they just rented it, then, that's the end of the conversation. But are you still looking to rent it? Yes. Tell me a little bit more about the house. And then you're going to roll into the script, which I'm not going to do off the cuff, but essentially what you're asking them is, have you considered, you're not talking them into anything. You're just asking, have you considered perhaps selling it instead of continuing to hold on to it as a rental? This is especially effective if it's been on the market for 2 or 3 months and they're mad because it's not renting. Maybe they had to lower the rent a couple times and it's still sitting there. So what they will almost always say is one of 2 things. They'll say, nope, I'm going to keep it forever. Thanks for the call. In which case you can still ask if there's any other properties, to your point about Dan earlier. Maybe they have something else that you could help them with.
Let me slow you down. Okay.
Yes.
Even if they say something like that, your mind should not go to, I'm going to get off the phone. Your mind should go to, this person just says, you need to say this next line. So Mr. Seller, I appreciate the fact, or Mr. Landlord.
You're already thinking of him as a seller, obviously, but
exactly.
Yes.
Mr. Landlord, I appreciate the fact you want to keep this property forever as a rental, and it totally makes sense. But let me ask you this real quick question. If I were to pop by with an offer, and this offer was, you could not say no to it. The price was great. The terms were great. The condition, everything, no funkiness in the contract, the builder, the buyer, just everything you'd want. The easiest transaction you've ever done in your life. Would you still say no? Would you still want to keep the property? And they're going to say, I would sell it. And then you now have a listing lead, right? So what Julie and I coach you guys to do in Premier Coaching is look for the folks primarily that are failed VRBO owners, right? And there are a lot of them. And if you're in a market where there's a lot of those, go after them. And they're almost always going to be absentee owners in different states. And then look for people that have a handful of rental properties, because they probably are burned out on wanting to do it. They don't make enough money to manage to have a manager do it for them. And they're probably losing money every single month because of the repairs and all the rest of it. Those are prime sellers. Oh, and by the way, you can use ChatGPT to show them very clearly that if they were to sell out of those properties and put the money into the S&P 500, they'd probably end up actually making more money over time than they would if they kept those properties. True story, by the way. S&P 500 since I think in the last 30 days is over 15%. So learn to, yes, if it's strictly an investment, I appreciate that. But if you considered the fact that if you had put that money in the S&P 500 a month ago, you guys get it? We teach you how to do all this in Premier Coaching. Make sure you're enrolling in Premier Coaching. Go to premiercoaching.com. Julie Harris, you have something to say.
Well, so the next step is they're going to say, well, what price do you think you can get me for it? And now you're doing a CMA for them. And now you have a meeting. Okay.
Right.
Because they're going to make a business decision. They're going to crunch the numbers. They're going to take out if they owe anything. And a lot of these people it's paid for free and clear. And then they're just going to make a business decision, which is going to be either cash it out, put it in the S&P, or maybe they're going to buy another rental that they like better with you.
But what you've done, though, is you've moved them off. No, I'm going to keep it forever. And now they're thinking about what they would do with the money. You guys get it?
Because you've had a real conversation instead of just hearing rejection. Oh, they want to keep it. Rejection. I got to hang up and call somebody else. You've got to be better with the conversations.
There you go. All right. So that is the show for today. And all of these notes, oh my gosh, Julie, I cannot believe we didn't get to some of these. They're so awesome. You guys have got to get these notes by going to, look at this, guys. Look. These are all waiting.
Maybe we'll make it the week of finding inventory.
Just subscribe to the newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. It doesn't cost you anything and you get all of Julie's notes. All right. So in the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow. And Julie, have great coaching calls today.
Thank you.